Time is the thread that weaves our lives together, yet we often treat it like a fleeting shadow, something we can chase but never hold. Each second is a note in the grand symphony of existence, and how we use them echoes through the fabric of our lives. But we forget that productivity isn't about doing more. It's about aligning our actions with the rhythm of the universe. When we stop resisting the flow and begin to move with it, we tap into an energy far greater than our own. We find ourselves in harmony with something deeper, something divine. Challenges are not interruptions. They are movements in this intricate dance, guiding us toward our highest purpose. Silence is not an absence, but a space where our most profound growth takes root. So, as you journey through today, remember, each moment, each choice is a brushstroke on the masterpiece of your life, timeless, meaningful, and beautifully unfolding. Such a simple word, but so loaded with meaning. We talk about it constantly, almost as though we have an endless supply. But deep down, we all know time is the one thing we can never get back. We can lose money, we can lose friends, we can lose opportunities, but time? Time slips through our fingers without mercy, and once it's gone forever. The truth is, we're often so caught up in the rush of daily life that we forget time isn't just a tool we use to get things done. It's the very fabric of our existence. Every moment, every hour, every day is a thread in the larger tapestry of our lives, and how we use that time will determine the story we're living. But here's the thing, we don't always treat time as the valuable, finite resource that it is. How many times have you caught yourself scrolling through your phone, mindlessly watching the clock tick away, thinking, I'll get to it later? The truth is, if you keep pushing things off, you're not just wasting time, you're wasting potential. You're robbing yourself of the ability to move closer to your dreams, to make progress toward your goals, and to live a life that truly reflects who you are. Time is not just a backdrop to your life, it is your life. Every second that passes is a moment you'll never have again. And when you begin to truly grasp this, it changes everything. When you start valuing time, when you really understand that it's precious, you begin to treat it differently. The way you move through your day changes. You stop treating time like it's something that can be endlessly stretched or borrowed from tomorrow. Instead, you start recognizing that every single moment is an opportunity. It's an opportunity to move towards something greater, to take a step in the direction of your dreams, or even just to pause and breathe in the life that's unfolding in front of you. Think about it. When was the last time you really stopped and acknowledged the value of time? Not just as something to manage or juggle, but as something to treasure. We're often so caught up in the hustle, the endless to-do lists, the expectations from work or family or society, that we forget to just be, to appreciate the time we have. Every task, every conversation, every decision we make takes up our precious time. But how often do we think about whether these things are truly worth our time? How often do we pause and ask ourselves, is this the best use of my energy? Is this bringing me closer to what matters most? The key to becoming truly productive is in this shift. This shift from viewing time as something we just manage to something we deeply honor. When you start to view time as a finite, valuable resource, you stop squandering it on things that don't matter. You stop letting other people's expectations dictate how you spend your time. You start to recognize that every decision you make about how to use your time is an investment in your future self. And when you view time through this lens, every choice becomes intentional, every action purposeful. Let me ask you, how much time have you spent in the past week simply scrolling through social media or watching mindless television? I'm not saying there's no place for rest or relaxation. Of course there is. But when you truly value your time, you begin to ask yourself, is this moment of rest truly serving me? Or is it just a distraction? And the beauty is, when you treat time like a gift, even moments of rest take on new meaning. You're not just wasting time. You're intentionally choosing to recharge and restore. But here's the secret. When you start respecting time, you start respecting yourself. You start to see that how you spend your time is a direct reflection of what you believe you're worth. If you're willing to give away your time on distractions and things that don't align with your purpose, what does that say about how you value your own potential? But when you shift your perspective and begin to treat time as something sacred, something that deserves your full attention, you begin to make choices that honor the life you're trying to create. The great thing about this realization is that it's never too late to start. You don't need to wait for the perfect moment to begin valuing your time. Right now, in this very moment, you can choose to shift how you spend your time. You can choose to stop wasting time on things that drain you and start investing in actions that align with your goals, your dreams, and your sense of purpose. It's not about being perfect. It's about making a conscious decision to change the way you interact with time, and in doing so, change the course of your life. So, from this moment on, treat your time like the precious, finite resource it is. Stop squandering it on things that don't matter. Instead, make every moment count, because in the grand scheme of things, time is all we really have. And when we honor it, we honor ourselves. When we think about time management, we often fall into the trap of seeing it as something we have to control, something we must force into a rigid structure in order to be productive. But what if I told you that real productivity doesn't come from fighting against time, but rather from working with it? Time is not an enemy to be conquered. It's a force to be understood, a current to be navigated. When you align yourself with the natural flow of time, when you move with it instead of against it, that's when true productivity begins to unfold. We live in a world that tells us to hustle harder, to keep pushing, no matter what. But the truth is, the harder we try to force our way forward, the more we find ourselves running into resistance. Time doesn't bend to our will. It's like trying to swim upstream. Exhausting and often futile. Instead of exhausting yourself with resistance, the key to mastering time management is to recognize the natural rhythms of your own life and work in harmony with them. Think about it. You've probably had those days where you're feeling energized and motivated, the ideas are flowing, and everything just clicks. Time seems to expand in those moments, doesn't it? And then on other days, you might find yourself sluggish, distracted, or uninspired. No matter how hard you try to force yourself to get things done, the hours slip away, and you feel like you're treading water. That's because you're not in sync with the natural rhythm of your own energy. Here's the secret. Instead of trying to power through on those low energy days, recognize that it's okay to move at a different pace. Sometimes productivity isn't about doing more, but about doing less with more intention. It's about recognizing that every day will have its own rhythm and learning to flow with it rather than fight it. The key is understanding when to push forward and when to pull back. When you allow yourself to work with the natural ebb and flow of your energy, you make progress without burning out. But it's not just about recognizing your energy levels. It's also about understanding the rhythms of the tasks you're working on. Some tasks require deep focus, some require quick bursts of energy, and others require patience and persistence. When you align your efforts with the natural flow of each task, you not only work more efficiently, but also create space for deeper, more meaningful engagement. The goal isn't to be busy. The goal is to be purposeful with your time, using it in a way that aligns with your purpose and energy. Think about how much more productive you could be if you stopped forcing yourself into a one-size-fits-all productivity system, but if instead of using the same approach every day, you tailored your time to what felt right in that moment. What if you understood that some days will be for big creative breakthroughs and others will be for reflection and planning? You would stop feeling guilty for the days when you're not feeling like you're getting enough done, and instead, you would recognize that every day has a purpose in the bigger picture. This approach allows you to honor both the fast and slow times. It means understanding that sometimes productivity is about sitting in stillness and creating the space for ideas to come to you. It's about using your energy wisely and understanding that working against time by overloading yourself or pushing through when you're not in the right headspace only leads to burnout. By recognizing when it's time to rest, to step back, and to allow yourself to recharge, you're actually preparing yourself for greater productivity in the future. By working in harmony with time, you give yourself the freedom to move through the natural rhythms of your day without feeling frustrated, overwhelmed, or stuck. You allow yourself to listen to the subtle cues your body and mind are giving you and adjust accordingly. Instead of pushing against the flow, you glide with it, making every moment count without forcing things into a tight, uncomfortable box. The key to true productivity isn't in the constant striving. It's in finding the balance between action and rest, between effort and ease. When you stop resisting time and start working with it, you unlock a flow that allows you to get more done, but with less effort, less strain, and far more satisfaction. So, the next time you find yourself caught in the rush of the world or fighting against your own rhythm, remember this: productivity flows when you stop pushing and start moving in harmony with the natural current of time. Purpose is the compass that guides us through the noise, through the clutter, through the endless distractions of daily life. Without purpose, we drift, often aimlessly, from one task to the next, not truly feeling the weight of our actions, not truly understanding why we're doing what we're doing. And if we don't know why we're doing something, how can we ever expect to do it with full energy, focus, and intention? Purpose isn't just a nice idea. It's the foundation of true productivity. It's what gives our actions meaning. It's what keeps us grounded when the world around us feels chaotic, when the pressure to do more and achieve more becomes overwhelming. When we connect our daily actions to something greater than ourselves, we unlock the kind of motivation and drive that allows us to move mountains. But without that sense of purpose, we'll always feel like we're running on empty. Think about the times in your life when you've been the most productive, when you've gotten more done in a day than you thought possible. What was different about those moments? Most likely you were working towards something that truly mattered to you, something that sparked your passion, something that felt meaningful. When you have a clear sense of purpose, you stop seeing tasks as burdens and start seeing them as steps towards something bigger. Even the most mundane tasks become a part of the journey. Without purpose, it's easy to fall into the trap of just filling our time with activities, without ever really questioning whether those activities are bringing us closer to where we want to be. We fill our schedules with meetings, phone calls, emails, errands, tasks that make us feel busy, but not necessarily productive. And the longer we stay in this cycle, the further we drift from our true goals. We convince ourselves that we're moving forward because we're busy, but in reality, we're spinning our wheels. But when we know why we're doing something, when we connect that task to our deeper values, our larger goals, or our personal mission, suddenly everything changes. We move through the task with intention, with focus, with a sense of purpose that propels us forward. The task might not be glamorous. It might not be the most exciting thing on our list, but because we understand its place in the grand scheme of our lives, it takes on new meaning. And that's when productivity becomes effortless. Purpose is also what helps us make decisions. When you know what you're working toward, when you have a clear sense of direction, every decision becomes easier. You can evaluate each task, each opportunity through the lens of your purpose and ask yourself, does this bring me closer to my goals? If the answer is no, you don't waste time on it. If the answer is yes, you approach the task with all the energy and focus you can muster because you know it's worth it. It's not about mindlessly filling your time with activity. It's about filling your time with purpose-driven action. Purpose also gives us a sense of clarity, especially when we face setbacks or challenges. Life will throw obstacles in our path. It's inevitable. But when you have a strong sense of purpose, you understand that these challenges aren't just random disruptions. They're part of the process. They're part of your growth, part of the unfolding of your journey. Purpose gives you the resilience to keep going, even when things get tough. It's the fuel that keeps you moving forward, even when the road is hard and uncertain. And this isn't just about grand, life-altering goals. Purpose can be found in the smallest of tasks, the most ordinary moments. You don't need to have a mission statement for your life to find purpose in your day-to-day activities. Whether you're cleaning your house, answering emails, or making dinner, if you tie those actions back to your values, whether it's creating a peaceful home, connecting with loved ones, or growing your career, suddenly those tasks hold deeper meaning. They're no longer just things to get through. They're steps on your path, part of your larger vision. So how do we tap into our purpose? How do we start living with intention? It starts by asking ourselves a simple question. Why am I doing this? Whether it's a big project at work or a simple errand, take a moment to connect that task to something meaningful. If you can't find the connection, maybe it's time to reevaluate whether it's worth your time. If you can, then pour yourself into it fully, knowing that every action, no matter how small, is part of the larger tapestry of your life's unfolding. Purpose isn't something we find once and for all. It's an ongoing discovery, a journey that evolves with us. But when you make the effort to align your actions with your purpose, you create a life that's not just productive, but deeply meaningful. And that's the kind of life that fuels you, that drives you, and that makes every second of time worth using wisely. Remember, productivity is not about doing more, it's about doing what truly matters. And when you connect with your purpose, you'll not only get more done, you'll do it with energy, clarity, and a sense of fulfillment. Purpose doesn't just drive your productivity, it transforms it. We live in a world that's full of distractions, pulling us in every direction, demanding our attention, our time, our energy. And if we're not careful, these distractions can hijack our focus and derail our productivity. How many times have you sat down to work, only to find yourself checking your phone every few minutes or getting caught up in the constant flow of notifications? You start out with the best intentions, but suddenly you're lost in a sea of distractions, and the work you set out to do is nowhere near finished. Here's the thing, distractions are everywhere, and they're not going away. It's the world we live in. We're constantly bombarded by information, by people, by noise, and it's easy to get caught up in it all. But the most productive people in the world have one thing in common. They've learned to protect their focus. They've learned how to create boundaries and eliminate distractions so they can work deeply and meaningfully without getting pulled away by the chaos around them. Think about it. When you're truly focused, when you're in that deep state of flow, time seems to disappear. You're not thinking about your phone. You're not distracted by the noise around you. You're fully immersed in what you're doing, and that's when your best work happens. But getting into that state requires discipline, and it requires you to protect your time and your attention like they're the most precious things you own. Because, frankly, they are. One of the most powerful ways to protect your peace and your productivity is by eliminating distractions before they even have a chance to take root. Start by setting clear boundaries around your time. If you're working on a project, set aside specific times when you're going to work and eliminate everything that could potentially pull your attention away. Turn off your phone, close the tabs on your computer that aren't related to your task, and let the people around you know that you're in a focused work mode. Make it clear that this time is for you to do what matters most to you, and don't let anyone or anything interrupt that. It's not just about eliminating digital distractions either. It's about protecting your mental space. How often do you find yourself getting pulled into conversations or situations that drain your energy? It could be someone complaining about their day, gossiping, or talking about something that doesn't align with your goals or values. These conversations aren't just taking up your time, they're taking up your mental space. And when your mind is constantly occupied by things that don't serve you, it becomes harder to stay focused on what truly matters. Creating boundaries with people is just as important as creating boundaries with your devices. If you're surrounded by people who are constantly interrupting your flow, it's time to have a conversation about your needs. Let them know that you need uninterrupted time to focus on your goals and ask for their support in honoring that time. When you make it clear that your time is precious, others will start to respect it too. But here's the thing. Protecting your focus doesn't mean you have to isolate yourself from the world.
Mhm.
It's about finding the balance between connection and concentration. Yes, we all need time for socializing, for connecting with others, and for being part of the world. But those moments of connection should be intentional, not distracting you from what really matters. When you learn to protect your focus, you start to be more intentional about where you put your energy, and that's when you start to see real results. It's also important to recognize that distractions don't always come from the outside world. Sometimes, for our own biggest distraction. How many times have you sat down to work, only to find yourself drifting into thoughts about what you're going to have for lunch, or wondering if you've checked your email in the last 5 minutes? It's easy to let our minds wander, especially when we're feeling overwhelmed or unmotivated. But the more you can train yourself to bring your focus back to the task at hand, the more productive and efficient you'll be. A powerful way to protect your focus is by practicing mindfulness. Being present in the moment and learning to quiet the mind can help you tune out distractions, both external and internal. When you're fully present with what you're doing, it's easier to block out the noise and stay on track. It's a skill that takes time to develop, but the more you practice, the easier it becomes to get back into that focused state whenever you need it. So let's remember this. Distractions will always be there, but we have the power to control how much influence they have over our lives. When we protect our focus, when we eliminate distractions, we create the space we need to truly get things done, without the chaos, without the interruptions, and without the constant pull of the outside world. You are the guardian of your time. Protect it fiercely. Protect your peace. Protect your peace. And when you do, the level of focus, clarity, and productivity you experience will be unstoppable. We all have the same amount of time in a day, yet some people seem to accomplish so much more than others. Why? It's not magic. It's not about working longer hours or squeezing every second out of the day. It's about priorities, knowing what truly matters and making sure your time is spent there. The real key to productivity isn't about doing more. It's about doing the right things. When you learn to prioritize, everything else becomes clearer, easier, and more manageable. Think about how often we get caught up in the trivial things. Responding to messages, checking emails, attending meetings that could easily have been avoided. We spend our time putting out fires, reacting to what's urgent instead of focusing on what's important. When you make it a habit to focus on what's most important, you build momentum, and that momentum carries you through the rest of the day. Prioritization also helps you gain clarity. It forces you to think critically about what matters most, what will move you forward, and what's just noise. When you start making those decisions, you begin to cut out the excess. You stop wasting time on the things that aren't contributing to your success or happiness. And in doing so, you begin to create a life that's more focused, more intentional, and more aligned with your true purpose. The beauty of prioritizing is that it frees up mental space. Instead of running around trying to juggle everything, you create a sense of ease. You know exactly where to put your energy, where to focus your attention, and what to let go of. And that, my friends, is the secret to unlocking true productivity. So the next time you're feeling overwhelmed or caught up in the busyness of life, remember this: you don't need to do more. You need to do less, but do the right things. Prioritize your time, your energy, and your focus, and everything else will fall into place. When you prioritize, you make room for what truly matters, and that's where the magic happens. In a world that glorifies complexity, the most powerful tool we can use is simplicity. It seems counterintuitive, doesn't it? With so many things pulling at our attention, we believe the answer to productivity is to add more, to take on more tasks, to keep piling on new goals. But the truth is, the more we add, the more we dilute our efforts. When we simplify, we create the space for what really matters. And when we focus on what matters, we become unstoppable. Think about it for a moment. How often do you find yourself overwhelmed by your to-do list? You start your day feeling motivated, but then you look at that list and it feels like you're swimming in a sea of tasks. You check one thing off and then another comes up, and before you know it, you're juggling so many balls. You can barely keep up. We're taught to believe that the more we do, the more successful we'll be. But in reality, the opposite is true. When we simplify, when we streamline, we get more done with less effort and with greater impact. This idea of simplicity doesn't mean cutting corners or doing less than your best. It means stripping away everything that doesn't serve your purpose, that doesn't align with your goals, that doesn't bring you closer to the life you want. It's about getting rid of the noise so you can focus on the few things that truly matter. Think of it as decluttering your mind. Just like we clean out our closets or our homes, we need to regularly clean out our mental space to make room for what really serves us. Simplicity is about learning to say no. We often feel like we have to say yes to every request, to every opportunity, to every task that comes our way. But here's the secret. Every time you say yes to something that doesn't align with your goals, you're saying no to something that could. Every time you stretch yourself too thin, you're sacrificing focus, clarity, and the energy you need to truly excel. Simplifying means being intentional with where you put your energy. It's about understanding that not every opportunity is meant for you. Not every request is yours to fulfill. And not every task needs to be added to your plate. The power of simplicity is that it helps you focus on the vital few, not the trivial many. It's about making decisions based on what will bring you the most value, rather than what seems urgent or demanding in the moment. When you start focusing on the things that truly matter, the other stuff falls away naturally. And when you eliminate distractions, when you stop wasting time on things that don't move the needle, you unlock the space and energy to do the work that really counts. Let's be real here. Most of us overcomplicate things. We spend too much time trying to perfect every detail, to figure out every angle, to make everything just right. But the truth is, perfection is a trap. It keeps you stuck, second-guessing yourself, unable to move forward. Simplicity, on the other hand, is about progress. It's about saying, I don't need everything to be perfect. I just need to move forward, step by step, with clarity and intention. Now, I know it's easy to get caught up in the idea that more is better, that if we just add one more task, one more project, one more goal, we'll somehow get closer to where we want to be. But that's the lie. The truth is, when we simplify, we increase our ability to focus and deliver our best work. When we stop cluttering our lives with unnecessary commitments, distractions, and tasks, we allow ourselves to channel all of our energy into the things that will truly move us forward. Simplicity is also about creating systems that work for you, not against you. It's about finding ways to do things more efficiently, so you don't have to waste mental energy on every little decision. Whether it's creating a morning routine, organizing your workspace, or automating certain tasks, simplicity is about making your life easier so you can focus on the things that matter most. The magic happens when you create a system of simplicity that feels effortless. When you simplify, you're not just decluttering your physical space, you're decluttering your mind. You're removing all the distractions that prevent you from focusing on what truly matters. And when that happens, you're able to work with intention, clarity, and purpose, and everything starts to fall into place. Think about a time when you've been truly productive, when you've gotten more done than you thought possible. It wasn't because you were trying to do everything at once. It was because you were clear on your priorities, focused on what mattered, and not distracted by the endless noise around you. Simplicity creates that kind of focus. So, as you move forward, remember this. Simplicity isn't about doing less for the sake of doing less. It's about doing more of what truly matters. It's about cutting away the excess, focusing on the vital few, and eliminating distractions that keep you from your true potential. When you embrace simplicity, you give yourself the gift of focus, clarity, and the ability to accomplish more with less effort. And that's when real productivity happens. We all know that productivity isn't just about getting things done. It's about getting the right things done. But here's where most of us miss the mark. Tend to focus on the next task, the next goal, or the next deadline without ever taking a moment to pause and reflect on how far we've come. It's so easy to get caught up in the hustle, to race from one task to the next, only to feel like you're running in circles. But real progress comes from the willingness to step back, evaluate where you are, and adjust your course when needed. Reflection is the secret ingredient to long-term success, and yet it's often the thing we skip over. We're so focused on doing, achieving, and moving forward that we forget the importance of pausing to think, to analyze, and to recalibrate. It's in those moments of reflection where the true growth happens. When you take the time to stop and look back on what you've accomplished, you gain clarity on what's working and what isn't. And more importantly, you get the opportunity to shift your perspective, adjust your strategy, and make sure you're aligned with your bigger goals. Think about the last time you took a step back and asked yourself, what am I really trying to accomplish here? We can all get so absorbed in the day-to-day grind that we forget the bigger picture. Reflection isn't just about looking back at the mistakes you've made. It's about looking at the entire process with fresh eyes. It's about understanding what's working and amplifying it, while also identifying the areas where you may need to make a change. This act of reflection gives you the clarity and confidence to keep moving forward with purpose. Now here's the kicker. Reflection isn't just something you do at the end of a project or at the end of the week. It's something you need to incorporate into your daily routine. Imagine if you took just 10 minutes every day to reflect on your actions. What went well, what didn't, and how you could improve tomorrow. In those 10 minutes, you gain invaluable insights that allow you to course correct before you get too far off track. This daily habit of reflection is like a compass, helping you navigate your way through the noise and stay on course toward your bigger goals. When you reflect, you're not just thinking about what happened, you're thinking about why it happened. You're digging deeper, questioning your choices, and examining your motives. Why did you spend so much time on that task today? Was it because it was truly important, or was it just a distraction? Reflecting on these questions allows you to take full ownership of your time and your actions. You begin to recognize patterns in your behavior and habits, and with that awareness, you can start making intentional changes that align with your true priorities. Reflection also helps you tap into something powerful: resilience. The road to success is never linear. There will be setbacks, obstacles, and challenges along the way, and it's easy to get discouraged. But reflection helps you put things into perspective. When you take the time to look back at what you've accomplished, you realize that those setbacks were just stepping stones on your journey. You start to see that failure isn't something to fear. It's just a part of the process. And with that understanding, you develop the resilience to keep going, no matter how many times you fall. But reflection isn't just about looking back. It's about using that insight to move forward with intention. When you take the time to reflect, you get a clearer understanding of what's working, what needs improvement, and where you can grow. This insight becomes your roadmap for the future, guiding your next steps with greater clarity and purpose. Let's be real. Without reflection, you're just running on autopilot, checking boxes and completing tasks without ever considering whether those tasks are leading you in the right direction. Reflection forces you to ask the important questions. It challenges you to think critically about your actions and choices, and it empowers you to make adjustments when things aren't working. It's not about beating yourself up for mistakes. It's about learning from them and using that knowledge to fuel your progress. When you build a habit of reflection into your daily routine, it transforms the way you approach productivity. You start to work smarter, not harder. You become more intentional with your time and energy, focusing on what truly matters. And instead of feeling like you're constantly reacting to the world around you, you start to feel like you're in control, moving forward with confidence and clarity. So here's the takeaway. Don't just move through life blindly, ticking off tasks and crossing off items on your to-do list. Take the time to reflect on your journey, learn from your experiences. Use that insight to adjust your course and keep moving forward with purpose. When you make reflection a regular part of your routine, you transform the way you approach productivity, success, and growth. And remember, true progress isn't just about doing more. It's about doing what matters with intention and clarity.